Welcome everybody to your seventh to last, I believe, episode of Fantasy News of this format. Don't worry, we're coming back in the new year just fresh and upgraded. Today we're going to be kicking it off with an update, hopefully the end to a story that's turned into quite the saga here on Fantasy News, and that is in regards to the allegations of AI art being used in George R.R. Martin's illustrated edition of The Feast for Crows. Now, I was initially planning on keeping my word and issuing an apology here to the artist because they took to their Instagram and, despite a lack of substantive evidence, denied ever using AI in their art, and I wanted to take them at their word. Jeffrey McDonald said, "For the record, I do not use AI. This is the Mad King, an oil painting on board. Here is the link from the publisher," linking to that post we talked about, which will come up again very soon, from George R.R. Martin's Not a Blog. They then followed this up after quite a few comments were asking for additional proof for all of the art, because it's not allegations that every piece was AI, but that AI was used in several of the pieces, explaining things like a necklace disappearing into a neck, an arm not lining up, and a missing leg. They then addressed the crucifix on the wall, saying, "Thank you for your questions. As noted in the link provided, all images go through a team or director for approval. Some things are added, subtracted, or redesigned in this process. Now, to answer the question about the cross, sometimes when illustrations get published, the size is much smaller in a book or magazine, so there is some compression of the image. This is not a cross, but a wall sconce for a candle. This is a very minor piece of the composition and used for decoration and balance."
Looks like a cross.
Additionally, again, steps throughout the process to show the back and forth that resulted in the development of these images would help a lot, but the nail in the coffin for me comes from the aforementioned post on George R. R. Martin's Not a Blog, which has been quietly updated, believe it or not, and the sentence where they talked about believing the artist not using AI is now gone. So now it's more just a general statement about how they will never knowingly allow AI into their final product. I do not want to direct outrage or anger towards any individual artist, period. The mother of all twists updates for this story, we have actually had a late night post from Jeffrey R. McDonald here, where he has come forward and published his process for creating several of these illustrations. Granted, not every single one, and personally I found myself while reading through this saying to myself, well, you didn't address that, but I realized I was just moving the goalpost. What we have here from Jeffrey McDonald is a very fair response where, yes, we as an audience can continue to demand more and more and more, but then just never be satisfied. Several pieces, they show iterations going through and completing it. If you combine that with the process that's gone over in this post, Jeffrey McDonald takes assets for inspiration, paints over them, and if he's not given enough time to polish them, then bizarre artifacts can appear. And so my conclusion here, one, I would like to apologize to Jeffrey McDonald for contributing to accusations against him. I did try to caveat it as much as possible. It looked like AI to me, and I didn't know when AI was implemented in this process. Now, it just looks like the management team here failed even harder. And the fact that that sentence was removed from the George R. R. Martin blog post raises so many more questions that look so much worse. You put in your post that you believe Jeffrey. He's now provided enough evidence for me to go, okay, maybe not AI used, at least on his side. So what's going on here? Is someone being thrown under the bus? And there's other artists who are talking about this who have previously worked on a Song of Ice and Fire special editions who have talked about how they were paid more money, given more time. And I'm just so confused as an outside observer looking in. And it just seems like a terrible circumstance to be in as an artist. Oh my God. Speaking of bad, we actually had a really good write-up about something bad. And I can't believe I'm having to step forward and defend Hasbro. This feels as gross as when I was recently forced to defend Disney. Hasbro's pissed people off in a whole lot of ways recently. But if you've been paying attention to the community, Elon Musk, over the last year or so, has acted as a snippy voice here and there, trying to claim that Hasbro's going woke, etc., purely because they have made steps to acknowledge that in the original printings and runs of Dungeons & Dragons, Yeah, there was some issues with sexism and racial influences. And so we had a magnificent write-up from The Atlantic by Adam Serwer going through basically how ridiculous it is to deny that, like, Gary Gygax said stuff like this and made references like that. But also to claim that is somehow taking away from Gary Gygax's achievement is insane. No, Gary Gygax made, in my opinion, the greatest game ever conceived of, period, full stop. It's revisionist history, though, to pretend like these were not influences that happened. And I think this Atlantic write-up does a wonderful job drawing parallels to the fact that, like, yeah, Tolkien stood up to Nazis. He also had some beliefs that don't hold up to the test of time, and turning a blind eye to them completely doesn't do anything aside from erase valid history, which of course, through the doublethink that people like Elon Musk do all of the time, they're claiming people who do this are actually doing, which is straight up nonsense. And I cannot stress enough, as someone who has a background in software development, how clearly it has been for a long time that Elon Musk is a master of none. You know that graph that shows like the peak of confidence like early on in gaining knowledge that then goes down? My boy is perpetually stuck here. Do not ever think of him as an actual substantive voice in the D&D community, because he's just trying to be a mouthpiece for the very loud minority of people who are trying to just like pretend D&D has been perfect from day one. It's just, it's annoying. And this quote from the article from a couple other sources perfectly puts it. No one's stopping you from playing the earlier editions. That's fine. Do that. Who cares? You're the ones making it an issue. And also, like, I'm willing to criticize these things and also love and respect them. Yeah, Tolkien had some like comments that I don't find great. I also found the way he stood up to Nazis to be incredibly admirable. Both of those things do not influence one way or the other me having Lord of the Rings scripture tattooed on my arm, because it's just not in what is wrong? Why are we? The internet has made everyone's brain so black and white and broken. My God.
Now, before we move on to this next story, I want you to do me a favor and give yourself a big old sniff and tell me,
what do you smell? Because for a select few people, there is always a certain scent you associate with them. Like for me, I always think of Kayla with black opium. It's what they call her signature scent. And with today's sponsor, Scentbird, you can develop one of your own. Because Scentbird is a monthly fragrance service that allows you to try new scents while avoiding the commitment and cost of those big old bottles that can cost hundreds of dollars. And instead, you get these nice little old convenient travel-sized vials with over 900 fragrances available, including popular brands like Prada, as well as niche labels. Scentbird offers plenty of opportunities to find your favorite profile. All you gotta do is go, yeah, that one smells like me. I've been trying out some new scents this month, and one I've been most drawn to is Heretic's Bergamusk. It's got that cedar and sandalwood combination that gets me. And then there's the Sahara Song by Rhone, and I don't know, this one just feels spicy. But unlike me, you're unsure where to start. Scentbird has you covered with a fun quiz. Gamified, more citrus, more winter. What do you want? And these refillable cases make it so easy to swap out so you can have the exact scent you want on the go. All you have to do is scan the QR code on screen or use code Daniel Greene to get 55% off your first month of Scentbird. So your first month is only going to be $8.97, followed up by $17.95. The following. Again, use promo code Daniel Greene or just scan the QR code and begin your scent journey today. Back to the news. Yes, the Goodreads Choice Awards are here, and the nominees to possibly win from readers, as every year, draw backlash from fans. It's a popularity contest, and one that actually, the more I've sat on it and dealt with it year after year, I do find some value in. The Goodreads Choice Awards for me, especially if you look at the nominees and who ends up winning year after year, is a very true to what is actually being read award. It's not about what's the best book, it's about what's pleasing the biggest mass audience. And I think that's actually a really valuable thing to get every single year. Obviously, I've had a long history of problem with Goodreads and its parent company, but it even positions itself as readers' favorite books every year. Not critically the best or most heralded, it is on its face marketing itself at this point as a popularity contest, and I don't really have an issue with that. But if you would like to see the possible winners for Fantasy of 2025, we have Red City, Wind and Truth, The Devils, Alchemy of Secrets, The Strength of the Few, Theft of Night, King Sorrow, The Incandescent, Brigands and Bread Knives, Unknowable Objects, The Everlasting, The Sirens, Water, Moon, Hemlock and Silver, The River Has Roots, Catabasis, The Raven Scholar, A Resistance of Witches, Drop of Corruption, and Bury Our Bones in Midnight Soil. And then for science fiction, we had The Once and Future Me, Local Heavens, Death of the Author, The Compound, The Memory Collectors, Shroud, Automatic Noodle, Hamajang Luck, I Think We've Been Here Before, Dissolution, The Dream Hotel, These Memories Do Not Belong to Us, Of Monsters and Mainframes, The Book of Lost Hours, The Merge, Salt Corp, Luminous, The Poppy Fields, When the Moon Hits Your Eye, and The Shattering Peace. I just noticed John Scalzi's on twice. Good for him. I do think critics of these awards do have a much more solid point, though, when it comes to, like, the strength of the few came out now, like right now, and the fact that it's already being voted on and put in there when no one's really had time to read it. There needs to be some kind of shift for the timetable for it to be able to have like a popularity contest chance. But aside from that, I don't know. I've just stopped being so bothered by the Goodreads Choice Awards. But in very exciting news for fantasy and sci-fi fans, one of the modern greats has been honored, and that is because N.K. Jemisin has been named a SFWA Grand Master. She is the 42nd recipient of the Damon Knight Memorial Grand Master Award, joining the likes of Mercedes Lecky, William Gibson, Peter S. Beagle, Heinlein, Bradbury, Isaac Asimov, Clarke, and so many more greats. The SFWA president, Kate Ristow, said, Jemisin is a celebrated speculative fiction author with multiple Hugo, Nebula, and Locus Awards, and also records with how she won those awards. A MacArthur Fellow, she impacted an entire generation of new writers with her groundbreaking work. Her career has had an unbelievable impact on the direction of speculative fiction and on how we imagine what science fiction fantasy can do. I am happy to acknowledge her work, even as she continues to write us into the future. I cannot imagine a better Grandmaster to solidify our next 60 years at SFWA. And upon winning the award, Jemisin said, I'm honored and excited to be joining your ranks. If you've read my work, you know how I feel about the power of stories to make change. So many of the previous Grandmasters wrote stories that changed my life. I'm truly flattered to be among them now. I feel like standing on the shoulders of giants can be overused, but to be a SFWA Grandmaster, becoming part of a tradition that includes Ursula K. Le Guin, Connie Williams, Samuel R. Delaney, Peter S. Beagle, Nalo Hopkins, and both of you, there is just no other way to say it. And as much as I appreciate this honor itself, I appreciate becoming part of SFWA's wider mission. In recent years, it's becoming very clear that no one's looking out for us but us. Labor violations, predatory contracts, private equity, and the Cthulhu-ass horror of AI. If you're a writer, you know it's bad out there. The fight is worth it, and we will win, but goddamn, you know? And in an age where fewer and fewer people are standing up for artists, SFWA, an organization which works hard for its members and even extends information and aid to writers who aren't members yet, feels more necessary than ever. I am delighted to be next year's Grandmaster. Keep fighting. See you then. Just feels good and happy. Makes me feel warm and fuzzy, and we need more stories like that these days. And yeah, N.K. Jemisin, wonderfully put. I cannot even add a comment with how nice that was. Like, funny, insightful, and properly setting the tone going forward. But remember how recently we talked about how Amazon's subsidiary Kindle and Audible and ACX have been updating their contracts to possibly screw over publishers, and they can even do it without explanation? I didn't think we'd immediately see the real world consequences of that, but god damn, Subterranean Press had to take to their Blue Sky account to announce earlier today we received notice from Amazon that they had terminated our KDP account, through which we publish ebooks, including Logical Fantasy by John Wyndham. I have written to Amazon, including proof of our permission to publish the book. Please accept my apologies that our ebooks are unavailable while I try to sort this out. Sincerely, Bill Schaefer. It has been 5 days and they have not been able to post an update, and oh my god, you control so much of the ebook market. Even a day of being out of that pool, God knows how it's going to affect algorithms and stuff like that too, because you don't include that information for publishers and readers. But it's just monstrously awful. And Next story. The Broken Binding has taken to Blue Sky to announce we are thrilled to reveal that we will be producing a special edition set of the Lot Lands trilogy with cover art from Raymond Swanland, the illustrator behind the iconic cover for The Grey Bastards. And then Saga Press is going to be bringing us what will be the most popular book reveal cover of the day, at least the most discussed. I don't know if y'all are going to love this. Let's lay in with our opinions, shall we? And that is because they have said coming June 16th of 2026 from New York Times bestselling author Brandon Sanderson and author-musician Peter O'Rulian, a contemporary fantasy of light, magic, and rock and roll. Songs of the Dead. This is the anticipated book written by the two authors off Sanderson's concept about a metalhead necromancer. Badass. And for the cover art, cool. I think it looks really nice. The color combo, black and orange, red, safe. It's not the most impactful one of the week, but in terms of selling me a tone, I frankly wish they had woven in some musical elements or something along those lines, though I'm getting like the horror ass thing coming up from below. Neat. Is there any music thing I'm just not seeing? No? Not that I can tell. Someone's going to point it out. I'm definitely missing something. But in the final piece of book news we're covering this week, we had a cover reveal from Del Rey. And that would be for The Inn at the Foot of Mount Vengeance by Chiara Bolin, with cover design by Regina Flath and cover art by Che Ruby. Perfect for fans of Dungeons & Dragons, light academia, and found family. The Inn at the Foot of Mount Vengeance is coming in July with this lovely cover. So while cozy fantasy might not be the flagship
fantasy genre
as it was for a flash in the pan, it absolutely has its followers, and I think those fans will continue to be fed. We had our first look at the upcoming live-action Legend of Zelda movie, and so many people have so many strong opinions on this first look for so many reasons, and I, looking at it, just kind of had the feeling of, oh, this franchise doesn't really lend itself to a live-action adaptation. And I mean that in a very, technical sense. What I'm thinking of is to its core, especially recent Zelda games, have been more about enjoying wonderful game mechanics and rich worlds to explore, but to call the stories profound or remarkably deep, I just find to be wrong in comparison with so many other video game franchises that are narrative driven in a way that The Legend of Zelda, in my experience, is just not. There's a rich world and mythos, absolutely, and I am in no way, shape, or form implying that a talented team of writers and a director couldn't come in and make something great. I'm just going to need to be proven that this franchise can adapt this way and that this is the right step for an interesting artistic take rather than a uphill battle trying to go against mismediuming, which is a concept we've talked about before on the channel where certain stories are just built for certain storytelling devices, and Legend of Zelda, very heavily in my opinion, is either a video game or at most possibly an animated show because of how much it relies on the beauty and aesthetics of the landscape. But I don't know. I'm just not super pumped about this one. Now let's go ahead and get into the quickie news because James Gunn has confirmed that Brainiac will be the villain in the upcoming Superman Man of Tomorrow, where he and Lex Luthor will be teaming up against the smartest villain in DC Comics. We have gotten a first look at Matt Damon and his fellow sailors in the Odyssey adaptation coming from Christopher Nolan. I might get crap for saying what I'm about to say, but I've seen so many comments in response to these photos of people saying the armor's not 1,000% accurate to what they likely actually wore during the Trojan. You don't care. You don't actually care about that at all. It's an actually thing where you get to pretend you know better, and it's because maybe a YouTuber or an article said something. Most of the time, they're not even upset about the fact that the armor's not accurate. They're just pointing out incongruities to be informative. Christopher King Nolan has decided he wants the armor to look a certain way in his interpretation of this, what's essentially a fairy tale, to match a tone he's likely going for in telling it. This is Christopher Nolan's interpretation of a make-believe story off of a war that we know kind of happened, but no, Odyssey is not real history, obviously. It's just one of these things that the internet does where people are like, didn't you know? Yeah, I also know the armor's not accurate in Troy. Troy's still a fucking awesome movie. You don't care. You're just bored. Oh my God! A majority of the comments I'm seeing in response to this article on Twitter, which it's Twitter, take that with a grain of salt, are calling it, quote, dog shit, utterly unwatchable, absolute ass. When, okay, one, none of these people would ever say any of this in real life outside of the internet in a situation where they are touching grass. But imagine being in a conversation with somebody, talking about your thoughts on this film, what worked, what didn't, and you're like getting into Nolan's artistic vision and all these things, and they're like, well, the armor wasn't completely accurate to what the Greek invaders would wear. To which the response is, do you know if the armor that Greeks would wear would have been conducive to the vision Nolan had, would have possibly blocked the actors' faces or bodies in a way that would have been unwieldy? Why is that why you're upset about in this movie that's adapting a myth? A myth. I just want to say that again. A myth. It's not trying to be a documentary. It's telling the story of the Odyssey. Are you okay? These same people better have a big problem with Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? A big one. Disney Plus is apparently going to allow its users to generate AI content on the platform for its franchises and stories, and that explains why they decided to go legally against these other platforms that were allowing people to do that for its characters. They want to make this an exclusive feature, it seems, for Disney Plus. We also got our trailer for Fallout Season 2. I'm so excited for this. I really want to see Season 2. Ella Purnell murdered it, and seeing her star alongside, oh god, the guy who plays the mutant, name I can't remember, on screen now. Great chemistry, and it looks like they're going to be interacting a whole lot more in this season, so I'm looking forward to some gross out laughs. And also, you know, Agent Cooper's in it. How can I not be thrilled that Agent Cooper's there? Speaking of actors I adore, Sam Rockwell is going to be starring in a film that is instantly shot to the top of my must-watch list, and that is going to be Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, coming February 13th in theaters. And this seems to be the story of a madman or a real time traveler being sent back in time to try and stop us going down the wrong path as a society. And as someone living in 2025, it seems like this movie could be cathartic to watch. And also, Sam Rockwell is a charisma bomb on screen, and everything from his performances in Jojo Rabbit to Moon, and even I like his portrayal of a villain in the MCU. He's just an instant win. And when he rarely does get the spotlight, Sam Rockwell shines all the brighter. So this kind of action comedy seems tailor-made for him. My ass is in the seat. Also, from what I can tell, this isn't like based off anything. This just seems to be, this just seems to be like an original thing with a director, Gore Verbinski. It's nice. It's just a fun film coming out from a scriptwriter and a director who wanted, yes, yeah. And in exciting news for my Alice in Wonderland fans, I'm a biggin'. Sabrina Carpenter is going to star and produce in a musical, Alice in Wonderland, for Universal. You look at the success of Wicked, you look at the popularity of Sabrina Carpenter, how she looks like Alice. It does seem like a very logical combination to put together. And I'm a bit of a sucker for musicals. I actually really enjoyed Wicked, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Just please actually brighten it, make it colorful, not muted. That is still one of the weirdest creative decisions I've seen in a while. We're readapting the movie that's known for being like revolutionary to color on screen for its time. What should we put over? Oh, a fart filter for all the colors. And then we're going to end this episode of Fantasy News with just something that I find stupidly exciting. And that is because Steam has decided to come out with not only a new controller, not only a new VR headset, but on top of that, the piece of hardware I am most excited for, a console that will be plug-inable, a routes to wherever you want to be able to claim 4K gaming at 60 FPS, and also act as a PC, allowing you to use things like Discord on it. Essentially the kind of next-gen console I've actually wanted for a long, long time. Yes, being more powerful is important, but a console that acts more and more like a PC, in my opinion, is truly next-gen console gaming, because PC gaming is better than console gaming objectively in every way. But I also want to be able to like reasonably take it and plug it to my TV upstairs so I can enjoy it on the screen. And this seems to be as portable as a GameCube. So hell yeah, I'm absolutely going to be selling my gaming PC and probably just getting one of these and be tying it into the relative subject matter important stuff. Just big deal. You know, you can play fantasy video games on it and sci-fi games on it. Haha, it's fantasy news. Don't question it. Oh, right as I'm about to wrap it up, we just saw the nominees for the Game Awards drop, so I'm going to add that in to further justify my covering of that console. damn it. And now the nominees for Video Game Awards are, for Game of the Year, Claire
Obscure,
Expedition 33, Death Stranding 2, Donkey Kong, Bonanza, Hades 2, Hollow Knight Silksong, Kingdom Come, Deliverance 2. I would bet my butt on it being Claire
Obscure,
Expedition 33. That seems like an easy runaway, like, victory for the whole gaming industry as a whole pick to have. And if you want to see the rest of the awards and their nominations, go check them out in the links and comment section down below. And also, the winner of the recent poll of which next series I should summarize here on the channel is finishing Red Rising, which I'm going to do. But I'm also curious if people in the comments down below are interested in me doing Mistborn Era 1 first. If I should do Mistborn Era 1, then finish Red Rising. I'll do the whole original trilogy of Red Rising. Let me know, because I know a lot of people with like how complex the Cosmere is really like getting Cosmere summary videos, because they're very useful if you're like dropping it, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Thank you all so much. Any input in the comments down below I'll really appreciate, and have a good one, y'all. Peace. No, I said have a good one, y'all. Have a good one, y'all. Peace. And once again, a huge thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring today's video. Please use code DanielGreene at checkout for 55% off your first Snifftastic order.